Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Throat Punch Thursday.
Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Who's ready?
It's Throw Punch Thursday, bitch.
Yes, physical violence will always be one of the most entertaining things available to us at any given time. A slapstick comedy, physical comedy, always funny. Not that we want to see anybody get hurt, but seeing someone simulating getting hurt. I guess it depends on who's getting hurt, huh? Anyway, we're having a good time here today. Want to apologize for no show yesterday. Unfortunately, I got a last minute call from a client that's a project that I was working on needed to be done like ASAP, and so wound up working through show prep and show time. As much as I love this show, it is not my primary source of income. So tell you what, if you'd like it to be my primary source of income, if you'd like me to just put y'all first, look, all y'all gotta do, just let me know. I'll add a little tip jar on here, and y'all can tip me and give me some tax-free tips. Myself and Mr. Pilwarski. And unfortunately, Mr. Pilwarski got called into work today, so he's not here today. So this is what kind of happens sometimes during the holidays. Everyone kind of gets last minute about stuff they need or stuff they don't need. Although I take that back. Usually around the holidays, things really slow down. In fact, I usually have a hard time getting a hold of clients and stuff like that. But such is not the case today or this week anyway. So we're having a good time. We're here. I'm here. You're here. If you're watching this program live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, you're here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Rumble. I do not believe we're on Twitter right now. We will be back on Twitter. Unfortunately, it's one of those, how shall we say? Well, I already told you my account got hoodwinked. And the new account that I have set up, by the way, at Craig DeLuz, that's my Twitter/X account. I haven't set it up on premium yet, so I cannot live feed on to there yet. Couple of things. Matter of fact, I'll just ask y'all right now. Two things. Number one, would you watch on X? If you would, let me know, and I'll set it up premium, and we'll go ahead and we'll start streaming this on X as well. That's number one. Number two. In the process of launching a new program. This new program is going to be called 2A News with Craig DeLuz. Planning on doing it as a daily. Don't know if it's going to be a daily, at least initially. We'll have interviews, we'll have guests, and it will all be Second Amendment related. But partnering with that, we're going to do a newsletter, a weekly newsletter. And if there's enough news, maybe we'll do a daily newsletter. But it'll be basically a news aggregation of Second Amendment related stories. So it'll include a summary of the story. It'll include a link to the stories so that you don't have to go out to all of the places and look for the stories. We will send them directly to you. Is that something that you would sign up for? If it is, please let us know in the comments if that's something that you folks are interested in. We would love to hear from you about that. Once again, we're trying to expand the sort of stuff that we are offering, primarily, so that, you can get more stuff and so that we can have more contact and more interaction with you. But also, giving opportunities to our sponsors so that they can reach out to you, so that you can find out how really, really good they are. And it also gives them an opportunity to help us out a little bit more. The more we do for them, the more they do for us, the more we do for you. That'd be kind of how it works. Speaking of our sponsors, let's go ahead and give them a quick shout out. We're going to start with Hitman Industries. They make rifle and pistol caliber barrels, and they are available for sale at any length. All you have to do is go to their website, hitmanindustries.net. Go there, check them out. Trust me, if you purchased an AR in the last few years, chances are you already have one of their barrels. Why not get another one, right? So whether you're looking to rebarrel your old rifle or do a brand new build, start your process at Hitman Industries. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board up to President of the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, they have a real task in front of them right now, not just because of Proposition 50, which took some really conservative districts or safe Republican districts and made them competitive, but also because it took some safe Democratic districts and made them competitive. And CRA is ready to fight on the ground. The block by block is how CRA is planning on fighting this fight to take back California, working on getting it to purple from blue. But we believe we can take it to red. And that's largely because it's so ugly, like a paisley blue. It's really, really bad, almost like a mauve. Anyway, but we need your support. CRA needs your support. They're the conservative of the conservatives. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. Find out for yourself. Go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org and check them out today. And then you've got the best and concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. That's at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters. Now, why is it HAWG? Because they like helping Americans wear guns. And in order to do that, they're willing to give you a discount. All you have to do is use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. And you're going to get a nifty little discount when you buy your holster. Then you've got the place to go if you need tactical gear. Trust me, weather's a changing. It's getting colder. I don't know about y'all. In California, it is freezing. Okay, it's not freezing. Those are all in the Midwest, no freezing. But for California, it's freezing, all right? So I need some cold weather gear. Well, guess where the place is that I'm going to look? That's right, uscombatgear.com. But I'm not just going there for myself. I'm going to get my buddies. I'm going to get my group together, my clubs together, because guess what? They specialize in group sales. They have really competitive prices. They have a huge selection. They have the best customer service available on the market. So all you got to do is go to uscombatgear.com, and trust me, you will find anything you need tactical except the gun. All right, so let's go ahead and get into today's stories, and we're going to start with. And I know what y'all are thinking. Y'all thinking Craig has swallowed the left wing Kool-Aid, in that he is buying into the whole left wing mantra of affordability. And I got to tell you, we have a problem, and the problem is, so yesterday began what is supposed to be a whirlwind tour of the president, going around and talking about affordability. All right, going out and talking about the economy and touting the economy. And this is just a little snippet of what he had to say yesterday.
And I said it the other day, and a lot of people misinterpreted it. They say, oh, he doesn't realize prices are high. Prices are coming down very substantially. But they have a new word. They always have a hoax. The new word is affordability. So they look at the camera and they say, this election is all about affordability. Now, they never talk about it. They never talk. Thank you very much. They say I'm not allowed to run. I don't know what the hell that's all about, but that's okay.
So you have the president of the United States going around talking about the economy is doing great. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things that he's done, a lot of things that he is doing that have improved where the economy would be. The problem is that, and this is almost like exactly what happened when Joe Biden did this. When prices went through the roof, when inflation went through the roof in 22, in 23, and then into 24. In 24, you started to see inflation come back down. It was up at a high around 9-10%. And it came down to where it was like 3.5%, still over 3%. And Joe Biden was talking about how he was bringing prices down. And the reality is that is just not true. It's just not true. It's not true in this respect, because we were the ones saying this. What we were saying was inflation has come down, but inflation was still positive, meaning at 3.5-3%, prices were still going up, but they had already gone way up. So it was now going up on top of what had happened. And so as President Biden was saying the prices are going down, they weren't going down. And now you've got President Trump not only saying that prices are going down, which in some areas, some things they are. Fuel prices, lowest they've been in 5 years. Egg prices, way down over where they were this time last year. In a lot of areas, and in a lot of areas, prices have gone down. But overall, prices are still high. And when I say high, keep in mind, people aren't thinking what prices were last year. They're thinking what were prices when they were lower in their remembering future, which, oh, by the way, happens to be about 4 or 5 years ago. Now, then at the same time, you have the president denying or basically saying, oh, this affordability thing is a hoax. The problem is that kind of contradicts his very own words, well, a year ago.
Starting on day one, we will end inflation and make America affordable again. But the word affordability is a Democrat scam. One of my top priorities will be to quickly defeat inflation and make America affordable again. I don't want to hear about the affordability. We will make America affordable again. We're going to make it affordable again. You know, there's this fake narrative that the Democrats talk about affordability. Affordability is a con job. We will target everything from car affordability to housing affordability. You know, this whole thing is, they use the word affordability. It's a Democrat hoax.
Yeah, well, he used it to beat a particular Democrat named Kamala Harris over the head. Well, let me clarify. First, he beat Joe Biden over the head with it. And so much so that he became senile. Well, he was already senile, but so much so that he dropped out of the race. Then he beat Kamala Harris over the head with it. And the thing was, it was true. The challenge is this, is there's not a whole lot that the government can do to bring prices down. All right. That's the problem that we're going to have. And here's the thing. Ultimately, what happens is over time, it's called inflation. Over time, inflation goes up. Even if it only goes up 1%, guess what? Even if inflation is at 1%, it's still going up. The key here is economic growth. The key here is to make sure that the economy is growing at a scale faster than inflation. Because if the economy's growing, then wages are growing. And if wages are growing, which, by the way, President Trump did a phenomenal job of in his first term, we actually saw real wages, individual wages go up, household wages go up for the first time in like 20, 30 years during Donald Trump's first presidency. That's why when I went to the barbershop and I got all these brothers, African Americans, blacks, who normally don't support Republicans, saying, yeah, I'm going to vote for Donald Trump. And I asked them why. They said, because under Trump, my pockets were fat. Now, I'm not saying they got rich under Donald Trump, but I know what they knew. They knew that during Joe Biden, that their dollars were becoming less. During the Biden administration, you saw prices increase like 22 to 25%. Over the total of his presidency. Overall, that was the compound impact of inflation. That meant that if you had $100, it was worth less than 80. Right? If you had $100,000 in your retirement account, it was now worth somewhere between $75,000 and $80,000. Because of how you could spend it. The spending value. Right? That's what we're talking about. So, if you want to increase the value, if you want to make life more affordable, you have to do one of two things. You either have to bring prices down, which generally only happens in a recession. Deflation usually only happens in inflation. I'm talking about across the board. I'm not talking about individual prices because, yeah, President Trump's, we got prices coming down. No. And by saying it like that, you have people believe, you're in denial. You have people believing that you are stupid. And that is exactly what people are pointing out. Or you don't have people thinking that you're stupid. You have people thinking that you think they are stupid, right? And once again, the media is playing right into it right here. People aren't dumb. Republicans worry that they're not doing enough on affordability. This is from NBC News. Congressional Republicans are starting to publicly and privately sound the alarm about their party's disjointed strategy to address Americans' affordability concerns, with some growing increasingly frustrated with Donald Trump's sometimes cavalier attitude towards the subject. While Republicans say say the high cost of living is a problem they inherited from Joe Biden, many GOP lawmakers still think their party needs to sharpen its own message and platform ahead of the midterms, or else it will cost them their tenuous majorities in Congress. And here's a particular example, and this is something, and I don't normally listen to a lot of what this particular consultant has to say over there at Fox News, but I think her analysis on this one is spot on, or at the very least, she's telling you exactly where the Democrats are going to go with their messaging.
And historically speaking, the midterms are going to go against the president. The question is, how big is that margin going to be? But Dana said, rightly so, that was what my nodding was, that Donald Trump, if he says, I got you, I'm working on it, that people can hear that and that can resonate. But the problem is that it's not one night, it's not 2 nights, it's like 320 nights that he's had to work on it. And he's put into place policies that are making it worse. And last night's rally, I understand it's all going to be chopped up, and that's how people are going to consume it. But it is basically an in-kind contribution to the Democrats. The midterm ads will be full of Donald Trump from last night saying, you can give up pencils. You don't need that many. You don't need $37 for your daughter. 2 or 3 is nice. So we're doing things right. Prices are going down. My favorite word is tariff. I just helped our farmers out because they're starting to do really well. The tariffs are making them rich. There is not a farmer that you could find to do an interview that is saying, I have been made rich because of Donald Trump's tariff policy. And last night, Democrats were also busy in Florida and in Georgia. So there's going to be a new mayor of Miami, Eileen Higgins, a Democrat, hasn't won there in decades. I know, before you say it, Brian, there was an independent who was in there in the early 2000s. Still, Kamala Harris won by 1 point, Miami County. She won by 19 points. We flipped another seat in Georgia. So far in 2025, Dems have flipped 25 GOP-held seats. The GOP have flipped 0. That is the story of what's going on here. So you can say people speak Trump, they love the weave. I get it. I never loved it, but I understand that people like it. What they like more is money in their pockets, and he's not delivering on that.
Again.
Okay. Yes, he is delivering on that, but he's not messaging on it is the problem. And to a certain degree, he's in denial. So what can the Trump administration do? Well, number one, they need to get off the tariffs. I'm sorry, but tariffs they're not helping. They have helped. The threat of tariffs have helped. It's helped them to renegotiate some deals. But the significantly, a bunch of the tariffs that he tried to implement or that he's implemented aren't even in place anymore, right? But it's the messaging around the tariffs. It's whether or not we're doing the tariffs that's creating a level of uncertainty that's making it tough on many American businesses. You got to stop that. So number one, put the tariffs aside. Just number one. That's step number one. And that is part of the bigger thing, which is continuing to do what he's already been doing, and that is get the government out of the way. Get the government out of the way, meaning deregulation, which he's already doing, lowering taxes, which he's already doing, right? And then pointing to, in the places, for example, where things are still not affordable, where prices are not coming down, where there is not economic growth, which, by the way, he's touting trillions of dollars in investment in the United States, in companies investing in the United States. The problem with that one is it's going to take time. It's going to take time for that money to manifest, for those investments to start to pay off in jobs. And right now, many of those investments are just talk. We won't know till we see the money. We won't know till we see the investment. But that's not enough for Republicans to sit on their laurels. The other thing that we've got to do is we've got to focus and we've got to talk about the places where costs are high and continue to point to why they are high. For example, is housing as expensive in Iowa as it is in New York? Is housing as high in, Idaho as it is in California? I will tell you in both cases, the answer is no. One of the reasons why things are so unaffordable in places like New York, in places like California, in places like Chicago, is because of government market manipulation and overregulation. They've made it so expensive. They've made it expensive through their policies. We have to do a better job of communicating that, of getting that message out to the broader communities, of letting folks know, hey, if you were to move to a place like, oh, I don't know, Nashville or to Tennessee, I'll bet you could afford a home I bet you could afford a home that you can't afford in New York. If you were to move to a place like Carson City, I'll bet you would find a home that you could afford better than you could find someplace in, say, Sacramento. All of a sudden, things become more affordable in places that are not governed by Democrats. And I say that because in many cases, it's once again, it's the Democratic policies, the Democrat policies that are making things expensive. The two most high-profile areas right now where things are expensive are healthcare and housing. Housing is directly tied. You go look at red states and you go look at red states and you go look at blue states. You go look at red cities and go look at blue cities and see which ones are more affordable. I guarantee you, at least 7 out of 10 times, the blue city is going to be way more expensive, even though they also tend to be higher in poverty. But anyway, I digress. Anyway, but then there's healthcare. Why is healthcare so expensive? Well, now we've got to re-explain the Affordable Care Act. And part of it we have to do with that is sharing what we said when that thing was coming forward, sharing what the Democrats said when it was coming forward, how it was going to pay for itself. We need to let folks know that we need to do a better job of communicating that, look, these subsidies came during COVID because the cost of healthcare was becoming unaffordable under the Affordable Care Act. The regulations in the Affordable Care Act made it unaffordable, right? It took what would have otherwise been someone's ability to choose what coverage they wanted, not get coverage they don't want, and pay for the insurance that they needed. Like, for example, if I'm a young under 30 or 35 or under, you know what? I need catastrophic. I just need, in the event that I wind up something's going to be really friggin' expensive, right? And then let me set up an HSA. That's what I used to do. I had a health savings account, right? I had a self-savings account. I put money in that like I was paying a premium, and I paid a premium for a high deductible insurance policy. As a result, and I was young, so I barely had to use my insurance until my kids came along. Right? When the kids came along, I got better insurance. I got better insurance because, kids need to go to the doctor and stuff like that. But the point that I'm trying to make to you here is that allow people, like, for example, like now I'm at an age where I don't need maternity care. I don't. I ain't having kids, right? My wife ain't having kids. I'm done. We done. Why do you gonna force me to cover that, to pay for that? I don't need transition. I don't need gender transition stuff. So why force me to pay for insurance that's got to pay for that? Right? It's the mandates within the Affordable Care Act that have made it expensive. So we've got to find a way to address it. So anyway, so those are the two areas. And 9 times out of 10, I will tell you what will make it affordable. It's called market forces. It's called free market economy. Get the government out of the way. Get rid of the regulations, right? The unnecessary regulations. Now, we will probably disagree on what is necessary and what is, well, not you, not y'all, because most of y'all agree with me anyway, right? Right. But you got to get rid of a lot of that overregulation, right? You got to allow the free markets to make decisions. You have to allow people to if you're in a place like California where it's crazy expensive to buy insurance because of all the overregulation, even if you get rid of it at the federal level, California's crazy. You got to allow people to buy insurance from across state lines. Allow me to buy insurance from a company in Idaho, right? Allow me to do that so that I can get a cheaper insurance and they'll cover exactly what I need them to cover. Right? Get the government out of the way. And I hate to say that I hate to say this, but even that is going to take a while. When you talk about making it more affordable from the very beginning, and I always said this, President Trump's one of his biggest challenges is he likes to put dubs on it, right? He's hyperbolic. He's out there. He'll say, it's the best economy in the world. No, it's a dang good economy. Is it the best economy ever? I don't know. Anyway, the point that I'm making here is that he overpromised and now he's under-delivering because, well, what he promised couldn't be delivered. You can bring some prices down, but he made it sound like he was going to bring all prices down. And he's just going to have to reckon with that in his messaging. I'm sorry, but, the other issues he's going to have to deal with is a lot of the folks who he's dealt with. Well, let's just be honest. How do I want to put this? A lot of the issues that he's going to have to deal with are just going to be, well, anyway, reality is going to have to set in, folks. You want people, and I hate to say this, but we all want people to believe that you can get all this stuff from the government without having to pay anything in taxes. That's just not reality. The problem is voters in particular, they want to hear that you will give them everything and it will cost them nothing. Now, you and I know that ain't the case. That's why we don't ask a lot from our government, right? We're like, look, fill in the potholes, send the fire department if my place is burning down, and, arrest the criminals. Put them in jail for as long as they need to be in jail. That's really, when you think about conservatives, that's pretty much who we are. That's pretty much what we believe in. We know there's a need for government. We just want to limit how much we lean on government, because a government that is powerful enough to give you everything you want is powerful enough to take everything that you have. Yeah, that thought would just be how it be. I know you may not like it. You may not want to hear that, but it is the reality. Folks, even conservatives, sometimes we get caught up in thinking we stuff a bunch of stuff we won't. Because spending doesn't go down under Republican presidents either, sadly. All right, that now brings us to our next story, and this is an example of what I'm talking about when you talk about issues. So healthcare is one of the main issues that's out there in front of people, and part of the reason why is because in the United States of America, is it the United States or in California? I don't remember where the guy was talking to folks from California. So it may just be a California number, I'll be honest with you, but something like 70% of people's healthcare, at least in the state of California, maybe in the nation, have some sort of government payment or subsidy. That's huge. Now, it wasn't quite as big. It used to be only people who were veterans, people who were on Medicaid or Medi-Cal, one of the various different programs, Medicaid or Medicare, right? Well, under Obamacare, that expanded dramatically. And expanded dramatically for a couple of reasons. One, they fundamentally added to and changed the requirements for Medicaid, meaning it used to only be for single moms, low-income single moms. And now it's expanded to where just about any moderate income, even a single individual with no kids can now get on it. And by expanding that, then they also expanded who was eligible for Obamacare. Now, the problem with that is that they said, well, it'll pay for itself. In other words, once we get all of these young people on health insurance, it'll work, right? It'll pay for itself. In other words, you have all these young people who are going to be paying for Obamacare, and they're going to be paying for Obamacare even though they're never going to use it, and it'll pay for everybody else. The problem was young people weren't signing up because they'd rather pay the $800 a year penalty because it was cheaper. They were like, I don't need healthcare. They were like, they didn't need healthcare. The $800 a month was a cheaper option. I mean, $800 a year was a much cheaper option for them. Then the Supreme Court basically said, nah, you can't force people. You can't force the individual mandate. You cannot require people to pay for, you cannot penalize them for not getting healthcare. So all of a sudden now, not only were people not signing up, or they were signing up in low numbers, a lot lower than expected, and opting to pay the penalty, but now they didn't even have to pay the penalty. Well, sure enough, costs started to skyrocket, especially as states created programs and states put mandates on there that required insurance companies to cover stuff that they never should have been required to cover. That people don't want, that in the end, the customers didn't want. Not that there weren't customers who wanted it, but they required every customer, whether they wanted it or not, to pay for it. Because if you require the insurance company to provide it, somebody's got to pay for it. How does the insurance company pay for the coverage? They pay for it with premiums. Who pays the premiums? The customers. And so you saw healthcare go through the roof. The cost of healthcare insurance. Then along comes COVID, and they say, "Oh, gee, things are a little expensive. People are going to have a hard time paying for their insurance." By the way, not mentioning the fact that they were still continuing to go up, even though people knew they were going up. Let's provide a subsidy during COVID. And then on top of that, they put because they couldn't get it as a permanent subsidy increase. Now, by the way, now, mind you, there weren't supposed to be subsidies initially. They added these subsidies in, right? No, I take that back. They had previously put in subsidies. Then they put in, this is another set of government subsidies. So now this is the government paying for healthcare. So now they put it in over, and it's been there for 4 years. And now those subsidies are coming to an end. By the way, when they put it in, Democrats were in control of both houses of Congress, and they had the White House. So they knew. But Democrats couldn't get enough votes. They couldn't get enough of their own Democrats to support the idea of making it permanent. So they put in a sunset. So all that is happening at the end of this year is the healthcare premiums are going to go down to what they would have naturally been had the COVID subsidies not been put in there. The Affordable Care Act would not be affordable. It never was affordable is the problem. Even Democrats, NBC News has admitted it. ABC News has admitted it. Democrats have admitted it. Yeah, it never really was affordable. Never really was. And so now the only way in which they have to fix it is to add in subsidies. And well, that's exactly what Senate had an opportunity to vote on was subsidies. Not just that, but Republicans also put up a plan. So you had Republicans put up a plan to bring down to address healthcare. You had Democrats put up a plan to quote unquote subsidize healthcare in this particular case, and both of them failed. Here being reported by The Guardian, the U.S. Senate on Thursday rejected competing proposals to address the imminent expiration of subsidies for Affordable Care Act health insurance plans, greatly increasing the chances that healthcare costs will soon rise to unaffordable levels for millions of Americans. The votes, part of a deal brokered between Republican Majority Leader John Thune and Democratic senators who agreed to reopen the government after a historically long shutdown last month, came as premium tax credits for an estimated 21.8 million enrollees of the plans are set to expire at the end of the month. Health Policy Research Group, KFF, estimates that annual premiums will more than double if the subsidies are allowed to expire. A Democrat-backed bill to extend them for 3 years failed to clear the Senate's 60-vote threshold to advance, with 51 votes in favor and 48 against. 4 Republicans, Josh Hawley of Missouri, Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski, and Dan Sullivan of Alaska, supported it, along with all Democrats. Montana Republican Steve Daines did not vote. A Republican proposal for the government to make payments into health savings accounts for enrollees of Obamacare, as the law is commonly known, in lieu of tax credits, was also voted down. All Republicans except Rand Paul of Kentucky voted in support, and Daines did not vote. Leaders from both parties blasted the other's proposal ahead of the vote, with Thune accusing Democrats of trying to pump money into propping up the Affordable Care Act, which most lawmakers in his party have opposed since its creation in 2010. Now, I need you to know that he is 100% correct. What we're talking about doing is like this. So you say that your car, you say that this is affordable, right? Well, initially it may have started off affordable, but then the prices went up and the price hit a certain point. So let's say let's say it was affordable up to then it hit $1,000, right? And then you're at $1,000, you're like, wow, if it goes $1 more, it's not affordable anymore. Well, then the federal government stepped in and started paying every dollar above above that $1,000. Well, if it wasn't affordable at $1,001 and the cost goes up to $2,000, but the person paying the premium, the consumer, the end user is only paying $1,000, does it mean that insurance is now affordable? No. It means someone else is paying the bill. The federal government, the taxpayers are paying the bill. The insurance is not affordable. It's not. The Affordable Care Act, not only did it not do anything to decrease the cost of healthcare, it increased the cost of healthcare. That's why Republicans are saying we need to get rid of it. One of the advantages of the health savings accounts, I'll say it again, is this. You get a health savings account with a high deductible, right? So let's say in this particular case, let's say if they're giving $1,500 a year to go towards it, right? Let's say they're going to give you $1,500. And then you take another, I don't know. Let's see. Let me think of a number. Let's say you take another $3,000 and add it to it. That gives you $4,500. So then you get a policy with a $4,500 deductible. Between if it's $4,500 a year, between that $4,500 a year that you're putting, or the $3,000 that you're putting in, right? The $3,000 that you're putting in, which is what, $250 a month, right? Somewhere around there. Between that and what you're paying in the insurance premiums, you're paying a fraction of what you would pay for a full coverage policy. You're paying a fraction of it. That's what I used to do. And I rarely ever touched the policy. The money came out of the health savings account. Guess what? The other thing about the health savings account was I was a lot less restrictive with what I could spend it on. I could spend it on dental if I needed to. I could spend it on vision if I needed to. I could use it to pay for out-of-pocket expenses in those areas. Overall, my cost of insurance went way down. Guess what the other thing, though, that happened was? All of a sudden, I knew what my healthcare cost. I knew what an MRI cost. I knew what an x-ray cost. I knew what the medication cost. And so I price shopped. At the same time, I knew I would never have to worry about anything catastrophic, because if I had something catastrophic, then the catastrophic or the high deductible insurance policy kicked in. That's why Republicans are pushing health savings accounts. Here's the other thing about the health savings accounts. What happens if you don't use it? Well, it rolls over. So if they give me $1,500 each year, let's say they give me $1,500 each year. If you're on the HSA, $1,500 each year, and I put in $3,000, well, guess how much that means I have. So at the end of a year, there's $4,500. At the end of 2 years, that's $9,500. That's almost $10,000. Now, I can stop putting money in and just kind of feed off that money and just kind of go as I, pay as I go. Or I can get a higher deductible insurance policy and I can pay less on my insurance. See, but that makes too much sense. That makes absolutely too much sense. And the government can't control you if they can't control your healthcare like that. Anyway, but that's why, just so you know, that's why Republicans are pushing the idea of health savings accounts, because it puts you in the driver's seat when it comes to paying for your healthcare. it also allows you to then diversify away the risk and get a policy that is high risk. I mean, that is not high risk, but that's a high deductible, but it allows you to cover the risk during that time. I know that's probably a lot more complicated than a lot of y'all wanted to get into on something like this. But here's the thing, folks. Insurance companies are recording record profits, right? They are seeing record revenues. And the reason why they are is because if you really want to know, all of that excess money, all of those subsidies that they're talking about, all that money is going to the insurance companies. That's not going to the people who are getting the insurance. That's going to the insurance companies. They're the ones that are making out on this. That's the reason why they supported Obamacare, because it didn't affect them in any way except to say you have to provide these other things. And they're like, well, can we charge for it? Well, yeah, you can charge for it. But then when Obamacare didn't pay for itself, the government had to step in and said, yeah, we kind of told you that we let you do that. So I guess now we better step in and pretend like it's still affordable. And that's exactly what they did. Wow. Okay, I'm running a little bit over here, but that was one I really felt like I needed to explain. All right, moving right along. 2A group asked DOJ to end right to purchase permits. This has always been one that's stuck in my craw. I know that they have this in places like Chicago. I know New Jersey's horrible with this. It's where you have to apply for a permit in order to be able to purchase a firearm. Well, that makes absolutely no sense. So in other words, you have to apply for a right to be able to exercise. You have to apply for a permit to exercise a constitutional right. Well, the folks over at the Citizens Committee to Keep and Bear Arms, for the right to keep and bear arms, they said absolutely, positively not, and are asking the DOJ to go after these permits. Here, this is a piece that they're reporting on here. It says, likewise, says Gottlieb added, those states which have adopted so-called sensitive that's wrong. It's in a press release. CCRKBA chairman Alan Gottlieb suggested that the new office should turn its attention to those states that require a permit, which often also includes taking a mandatory class and live fire test before purchasing a firearm. Gottlieb argues that that citizens should not be forced to get permission from a government entity in order to exercise a fundamental right protected by both the U.S. Constitution and a vast majority of state constitutions as well. And I think this is something, once again, that I 100% agree with, and this totally fits within the auspices of this group, of the section, the new section, the Second Amendment Civil Rights Protections section. You should not have to apply for a permit to exercise a fundamental right. There's absolutely no reason. I get why they want to do background checks. I don't agree with it, largely because, well, I won't get into universal background checks don't help. But all that having been said, the idea that you have to apply for a permit before you can purchase a firearm, there was an instance in New Jersey where someone had been waiting forever, and they applied for it because they were in danger. They were dealing with an ex-spouse or an ex-boy. I don't remember if it was a spouse or a boyfriend, who they were basically being threatened by. And when they applied for their permit was being denied or being delayed, and they wound up being killed by that boyfriend or that significant other. Because waiting to get their permit to with and address. And then we'll talk about this last issue. I could not believe this when I saw this, because this is so this actually comes out of a report, specifically a story that was specifically done by the folks over at the Washington Free Beacon. And it says here, in wake of Free Beacon report, Trump administration to investigate federal contractors that say they won't hire U.S. citizens. That's right. They contract with the federal government, but say they won't hire U.S. citizens. Several IT firms that appear to bar U.S. citizens from certain jobs also have contracts with the federal government, suggesting that they are discriminating against Americans even as they receive millions in taxpayer largesse. The Trump administration is now investigating those companies, and the General Services Administration told Washington Free Beacon it would, quote, take all necessary steps to ensure accountability and compliance, meaning you're not going to discriminate against Americans. But I'll give you their words. Discriminatory practices in procurement are unacceptable and unlawful, said Josh Gruenbaum, the GSA's Federal Acquisition Service Commissioner. Quote, we will be issuing a full contract review with our agency partners who have active awards with the named contractors as well as others as appropriate. The Free Beacon reported last week that IT staffing firms LanceSoft and TechGens had posted job advertisements, including at USC or that USC or U.S. citizens are not eligible for certain roles. Both companies have contracts with federal agencies, according to the GSA's database, active technology vendors. Though the GSA does not list the value of either contract, other IT firms, ARC Solutions or ARK Solutions, has received more than $11 million in government subcontracts since 2023, according to the analytics from HireGov.ark. HireGov. ARK Solutions has posted multiple job ads that say no USC, including one for a project for the state of Georgia. Now, keep in mind, some of these companies, one of they're doing is the companies they're hiring, they're applying for H-1B visas, meaning they're trying to bring in foreigners to do these jobs. So in other words, they got the job there. They're applying for they're going to hire a foreigner, and then they're going to bring that foreigner in because they're willing to do the job for less than an American will. Those visas should be denied. Visas for those companies should be denied unless they can show evidence that they have sought American workers and weren't able to find any that could do the work. And they can't because evidently they're not even looking. Yep, they are not even looking. So anyway, that's one to keep an eye on. Encourage y'all, keep an eye on that one. Anyway, should be interesting. All right, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. So go to hogholsters.com, use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word. Get your hog holster today. Before we get into that, I got a couple of comments here from American Crossfire. If something needs a subsidy from the government, obviously it doesn't work. Yes, that is true. The problem is this, is that in some cases there are arguments for temporary subsidies. The problem is that there's no such thing as a temporary subsidy. It eventually becomes permanent. So you can't even really make an argument for temporary subsidies because as soon as they get them, they lose the incentive to actually get off of the subsidy. So there is that. Also, American Crossfire notes, and the insurance companies just keep upping the price because the government is paying. And that's exactly the truth. Anytime you introduce a government subsidy into something, whether it's education, whether it's housing, whether it's healthcare, the costs go up. Anytime you do it, the cost always goes up because you have the government basically manipulating markets is what you got there. That is in essence what winds up happening. All right, this next video here I wanted to play for you, and it's well, let's just put it this way. Jasmine Crockett pretty much says it all. And what I liked is basically how I don't like how wrong she is. I just find it interesting how wrong she was in this one.
I challenge somebody to go and find a clip of a Democrat invoking violence.
Let's extinguish him for good. I will go and take Trump out tonight.
We're going to fight it in the courts, and we're going to fight it in the streets.
When they go low,
we're going to bury them below the Capitol. That's what we're going to do.
We take them to the mud and choke them out.
You know, there needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
We're walking down a damn different path. We're fighting fire with fire, and we're going to punch these sons of bitches in the mouth.
By taking behind the gym and beat the hell out of them.
Now punch back, kick back, dunk over their heads, and win some fucking power.
Fight back, punch back, and make sure that they stay down. And you know what? Kick them when they're down, because they deserve it.
I think that you punch. I think you punch. I think you're okay with you okay with punching.
We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
We are not only going to punch you back, but we are going to knock you out.
Like we're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
Well, I am here to tell you, not only are we going to punch back, but we about to beat you down.
And goddamn it, shut down the city! We are at war!
When they go low, we kick them.
Even in states where Donald Trump won big, that it does you any good running away from Donald Trump. I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
Let's make sure we show up wherever we have to show up. And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Yeah. That sounds like incitement of violence. And by the way, keep in mind that since this times you've seen shootings at ICE facilities. You've seen, I mean, by the way, this isn't even the worst of it. This is what you saw right there. That was just an example from over a year ago. Anyway, you've seen attacks on law enforcement. You've seen ambush attacks on law enforcement. You've seen 2 attempts on the president's life, and you've seen the death of Charlie Kirk. And you still, with that, you still had Jasmine Crockett is so ignorant. I'm sorry, but she is dumber than her wig. I saw somebody post that the other day. I would vote for her wig before I would vote for her to be a member of the U.S. Senate. Anyway, that's just me. All right, these next few are going to come to us from our friends over at the Babylon Bee, fake news that you can trust. The first one, Trump announces aid package to farmers to help them deal with how amazing the economy is. I'm sorry, that's just, it's kind of funny because why do they need a subsidy if the economy is doing so well? Yeah, no. Anyway, the economy is doing good. It's doing better, but the tariffs aren't helping. So but anyway, that one was funny anyway. Here's another one. This one is interesting because, well, you know, in Venezuela, they ain't got much to eat. So U.S. military persuades entire Venezuelan army to surrender by offering them food. All right, if there is anybody eating in Venezuela, I'm pretty sure it's the army. Not saying, just saying. It's funny nonetheless. And then finally, Kwanzaa finally revealed to be an elaborate prank on white people. Yeah, as we get rid of DEI, yeah, Kwanzaa. Wow, I am black and I do not celebrate Kwanzaa. I think it is a joke. It is a joke that was invented by a guy who was a convicted felon, a guy who basically went to jail for torturing a woman, right? Burned the inside of her mouth with a curling iron. Yeah, that's what Dr. Karenga did, and that's the founder of Kwanzaa. So. I got no respect. And I've watched, I actually saw the California legislature actually honored that man without saying a word about his past. But anyway, I digress. All right, folks. Well, that now brings us to the end of our program. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. You've got Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at hitmanindustries.net. Get the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party at cragop.org. You got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters, helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, you've got the place where you can get all things tactical except the gun. That would be uscombatgear.com. And with that, we will go ahead and call it a day. I will be back tomorrow. I cannot guarantee the mic will be here, but I will be here. And look forward to talking to you on Free for All Friday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you mañana.